All right, we move on now. Gone are the days when people used to work for a company or company for years to earn their daily bread. As technology and the world of internet opens new doors, people across the world now don several hats in a day. They might work as a full-time employee for a company in the morning and by evening turn into a professional YouTuber, blogger, or simply a content creator. You see, the potential and possibilities are immense. And so today on the ET Money Show, we will explore how individuals can develop additional sources of income. Let's bring on board Pranjal Kamra, CEO of Finology Ventures. Pranjal, good evening. Welcome to the show. And today we are going to talk about multiple avenues to have regular income. This is obviously for people who are not only into the freelancing side of job or business or projects, but also even the salaried people. We are not talking about moonlighting over here, but something that gives them multiple sources of regular income. How should one go about it? I mean, what are the options? We'll talk about that later. But why is it important for an individual to consider more than one stream of incomes?
Thank you for having me, Kavita. Always a pleasure. See, it's important because if we look at how families have evolved historically, say 40 years ago, 30 years ago, most families had one earning member, and that was usually enough to sustain the kind of life they wanted to live. In the last two generations, usually both the adults of the family are earning, and it's still more and more difficult to be able to sustain the living standards that one wants to. In a hyper competitive capitalist world, this will keep on increasing. Today we are in a situation where most people need to earn a second job in order to sustain the lifestyle. So this is bound to happen. The earlier we adopt, the better it is. And secondly, you don't want to continue doing this all your life. You don't want to work till 65, 70. You want to retire early. And to be able to retire early, you want to save more. How will you save more? When you earn more. And apart from that, this is the financial side of it. I think a second job also makes us a more talented, a more intelligent, and a more creative individual, because 8 hours a day we are usually doing in the same environment, doing the same kind of work, and we tend to get typecast. So if we're doing something else, we are becoming better sellers, better managers, better hustlers. I think that also improves our personality. So social reasons, personal reasons, financial reasons, all three reasons why someone should look for a second source of income.
All right, so now let's talk about what are the kind of avenues which are available, or what can one actually look at. Do you think it's also important for an individual to keep upscaling themselves in order to have more than one source of income?
Oh, absolutely. And I think, it's also the other way around. I think once an individual starts thinking that he or she needs a second source of income is when upskilling will actually happen. Because to be able to generate the motivation to upskill yourself, you need to have certain goals in mind, certain incentives. So I think once someone thinks that I need to earn more, I need to retire early, I need to provide a better lifestyle to my family, is where he or she'll think of second source of income. And then in due course of providing that service, product, or whatever that second source is, upskilling will be a natural side effect of you trying to do something new, something else, something secondary. What are the options? Thankfully, in this age of internet, one, the rural urban metro divide has diminished. You don't need that sort of physical infrastructure to be able to do something. As long as your place has electricity and internet, you're sorted, which pretty much entire India has. Now, what are the kinds of things you could do? To start off, first, whatever you could teach. So teachers, online teachers are in huge demand. Anything that you think you're comfortable teaching people, it could be a hobby, it could be academics, it could be your professional role, whatever you do in your professional career, anything. People want to learn all kinds of skills. They want to learn it from people who are experienced in that domain, and they want to learn it in the comfort of their home. So online teaching is one great. And this is something, online teaching is something that works for across age groups. So if someone is, say, 18 years old, He or she could teach students 12-year-old, 10-year-old, and 15-year-olds. Someone is 60-year-old, they could still tap this market. So this is something that works for all age groups. Second is called gig economy. So anything you're good at making, say, chocolates, you're good at making creatives, graphic designs, SEO, landing pages, email newsletters, photographs, any hobby, any creativity that you're good at, and you think there will be demand for it, there is gig economy. You can offer your products and services on websites like freelancer.com, fiverr.com, and it's a great marketplace to be actually be able to sell your products or your art. That's option 2. Option 3, there's someone like me working as a content creator. So again, anything that instead of teaching that on a one-to-one basis, you try to become an influencer in your niche. You try to influence the masses from whatever so that's another option. Influencers are earning like crazy these days. So that's something great. You don't need much infrastructure with now short form content becoming the norm and text based content on Twitter and LinkedIn. You hardly need anything. A mobile phone is all you need, and everyone who's viewing that, I'm assuming they have a smartphone, and that's all you need, nothing else. Moving on, there's this concept of drop shipping, where actually you don't own the inventory. You just take orders, you buy from your source in bulk or at a discounted price, and you ship it to anyone who ordered it. So drop shipping is something that makes you a retailer without you having to own a space or actually inventory. So we know what cloud kitchens are. Drop shipping are basically cloud stores where you don't do anything. So these are some of the very basic options.
And you spoke about these options. A lot of financial planning would actually come into the picture when one wants to consider the second source of income. Also, how important it is to analyze that what you're getting right now. For example, if you're if you're an employee, if you're a salaried individual, if you want to move on in your life and do something which gives you multiple sources of income, it's very important to understand what that amount would be and how would it actually compensate to what you're earning. And you obviously want to grow in your life, which means you need to increase your earning. How can one actually take a step out of their comfort zone, out of their risk zone to achieve this stage of having multiple source of income? Because a salary, you know how a salary works, you get a fixed amount every month, you kind of get used to it, and then obviously you have financial responsibilities. It gets really difficult to think of it not being there when you want to experiment something like this.
Oh, very good question, Kavita. One trend that I've often seen, and this is one mistake that people do, is that we need to understand that we are looking for a second source of income, a secondary source. And by the word secondary, it has to be something that doesn't affect your primary source of income. That's the first precaution that you need to take. What happens at times is that, you know, earlier we used to put in just that extra effort in our primary job, and now we have to go back home and manage our secondary source of income. And that extra effort, that X factor that we had, we tend to give that up. We tend to become, say, average employees and focus that extra energy on the second source of income. And what that actually does is that it stops our growth in the primary job, the job that we could have got, increment in the job that we could have got, say 20% increment we could have got, we only get 8% because this year our performance was not up to the mark. So things like that, things like these shouldn't happen at all. First precaution, make sure your primary job is not affected. Second, what are the precautions you need to take? What are the things you need to ensure when you are transitioning to a second source of income? One, your family life should not be affected. Your quality of life should not be affected, because then you'll not be able to actually sustain it. You might start it, hustle for a few months, but you will not be able to sustain it. So that shouldn't happen. What are the kind of financial goals you're looking at? See, I think that is a very individualistic question, very subjective, depends on the individual. But I think a right point of time to start a second source of income is when you're struggling to pay your EMIs. I think that is a wake up call. if you've taken a home loan, a car loan, and you're struggling and you're finding that the quality of life of your family is getting affected, it's a huge wake up call. And please, this is the time when you actively look for a second source of income.
So that's a roadmap if at all one wants to have more than one sort of regular income in their hands. But then tell me something, how can one actually dabble into different kind of sectors? Now the kind of options you've given involve a lot of freelancing part also in it. But do you really suggest for an individual to have more than one sector as a part of their regular income, or it's fine if they're just club sectors? If you have the expertise, if you have the knowledge, if you have the skill, then why not?
I think it's important to start slow, start easy, not put too much pressure on oneself because you're just getting started. And ultimately, if you are ready to diversify that source of income, or venture into ancillary activities, I think timing and how your second source of income is performing, you will get that hint. In sports, we say that a player knows when to retire. Similarly, in terms of your second source of income, you will get that intuition when to delve deeper into it. And it might happen that your secondary, the gig or the freelancing work that you just started as a second source of income, it does so well that you diversify, you hire a team, and it becomes your primary business. That could always happen, but it's important to be realistic. Just make sure that you are doing it to increase your total income by next 20%, 30%, 40%, just to be able to pay off those EMIs, and not have too high expectations. Start off with something that's very execution light, because you don't want to hire a lot of team, or put in too many hours. So whether you are looking at gig economy, whether you are looking at freelancing, whether you're looking at content creation, or you're looking at blogging, choose a thing that comes naturally to you. So if writing comes naturally to you, probably teaching is not for you, or blogging is something that's primary. So one is what skill you have. Second, how do you want to deliver that skill? Through video communication, audio communication, textual communication. So secondary part is the medium you are comfortable with. And third, which option is actually execution light, that you could do it, and while doing it you enjoy it. Only when you enjoy it will you be able to do it, coming back from office, working 10 hours, hard hours in office, and only then you will be able to maintain that consistency, because this is something you enjoy, and the medium of delivery should be easy, and the idea should be really, really execution light. So personally, I suggest someone start. If today I would be starting, probably I would choose a couple of ways. One, reels on Instagram, really execution light. You don't need graphics, you don't need teams and things like that. So if my expertise is in an area where I can deliver it through Instagram, I would choose Instagram reels. And second would be creating a profile on online tutoring websites and offer my services as a tutor. That is again something very execution light. You don't need to build your personal brand. That online teachers marketplace actually acts as a lead provider to you, and then how you perform your ratings and things like that kind of build a loop that works automatically. So I think these two options are the most execution light.
I think that will be all. Thank you so much, Pranjal, for being on the show and helping our viewers in thinking of regular income options.